last few videos, we've been talking about time of supply for goods and services for all four categories. In order to find out time of supply for normal supply, you would also need to know what is the last date within which the supplier has to issue the tax invoice. And that's what brings us to this lecture on tax invoice. There are separate rules for supply of goods as well as supply of services, and in this video we are going to check out the provisions for supply of goods. In the next video we'll cover services. Supply of goods can be of three types: a normal supply, continuous supply, and goods that are sent on approval before the supply has been finalized. Tax invoice rules are also different for these three categories of supply of goods. The first one, normal supply, is where a recipient receives goods from the supplier issues invoice, the recipient makes payment. Done. That's a normal supply. For normal supply, the last date to issue tax invoice by the supplier would be before or at the time of two situations. If there is movement involved, if the supplier has to supply goods from one state to the other, then before or at the time of removal of goods, that is, removal for supply to the recipient, before that, the supplier has to issue tax invoice. If there's no movement, if it's a fixed machinery or a factory setup or anything, if there's no movement involved, then the tax invoice would have to be issued before or at the time of delivery of goods or making the goods available. In order to understand the first situation where there's movement involved, you need to know what removal of goods means. For supplier, the removal of goods is at that point of time when he or a person acting on his behalf dispatches the goods for delivery to the recipient. The final time when the goods leaves his factory to go to the recipient. The receiver, the recipient, the removal of goods is at that point where he or a person acting on his behalf collects the goods. The supplier has removed the goods on 1st May 2017 from his warehouse or godown for supply, for delivery to the receiver. The receiver receives these goods, this consignment, on 20th May of 2017. The invoice will have to be issued on or before 1st May 2017. That is the timeline for tax invoice. Now, the situation where there is no movement, the delivery of goods or making goods available, before that, the tax invoice has to be issued. So you need to know what making goods available is. Making goods available does not mean delivery. It is a time when the goods are placed at the disposal of recipient. The factory where the machine is set up is made open for the recipient to come and use his machine, where it's physically not capable of being moved. This is the situation. The machinery is fixed in the factory. It's not physically capable of moving. It is supplied in assembled or installed form. Furniture fixed inside a home, it is assembled and installed. Or it is delivered to the agent or principal, to the recipient's agent or the recipient's principal. If the delivery is made to those people, then this is what we call the goods are made available to the receiver. That was the situation for normal supply. If movement involved, then before or at the time of removal of goods for supply to the recipient. If no movement is involved, then before or at the time of delivery of goods or making the goods available. The second type of supply of goods is the continuous supply. For this, we need to know what a continuous supply is. By the name itself, you can guess that there is a regular supply of goods to the same customer by the same supplier. For example, a subscription box. It is supplied every month or at the duration that you have chosen for. The definition can be interpreted like this: goods are supplied continuously under a contract. You sign up for the subscription box, you choose the duration you want, and you make payment. All this is part of a contract. The agreement is what you're signing up for. And the supplier invoices the recipient on a regular basis. So, once you sign up for the subscription box, say you opted for the monthly subscription scheme, every month when the box is delivered to you, the supplier would also deliver the invoice along with the box. So there's a regular supply which is under a contract, and there's a regular invoice that is issued. These are the two criteria on continuous supply. Criteria talk nothing about payments. When is the receiver supposed to make payments? So that could be as per terms of the contract. The supplier can issue a statement of accounts, that is statement showing how much he supplied and how much the receiver has paid, or the receiver can keep making on payments. So it could be successive statements or payments, or no successive statements or payments. There'll be these two situations. In the second one, it's simple, it's just a lump sum payment and no successive rounds of statement or payment. So in the first situation where there's successive payments or statements, it's very logical that the tax invoice should be issued before or at the time of issue of each of these statements or receipt of each payment. So supplier would receive the payment, he's the one who issues statement. So before any of this or at the time of issue or receipt, he'll have to issue the tax invoice. In the second situation where there is no successive statement or payment, the law is silent as of now. That's all the provisions relating to continuous supply of goods. Next is a special category where the goods are sent on approval. Basically, imagine a situation where you have ordered a customized jacket and the terms state that you can pay, the sale is final only if you approve that the customization is as per your liking. So the supplier would send the jacket to you after he's done with his customization touch, but the sale is not complete. You will have to approve, saying that, hey, yeah, I do like all the customization and I'm ready to buy the jacket. It's only then that the sale is complete. But the supplier has already sent the goods out to you. There's movement already done before the supply was finalized. So, goods are sent for approval, and only if they are approved, only if you say the jacket is okay, the recipient, you, will buy that product. So the situation is that the goods are removed before a confirmed supply. In this situation, tax invoice will have to be issued at a date earlier of two given dates. Earlier of first, before or at the time the supply is confirmed, before or at the time you say yes to buy the jacket, or 6 months from the date of removal. The supplier shipped the jacket to you, but you've not given your answer for 6 months after receiving the jacket. Then the law assumes that the sale is done. You cannot take forever to give acceptance, and therefore 6 months from the date of removal. Earlier of these two dates would be the last date to issue tax invoice. And that's the last category of supply of goods. We've covered all three of normal, continuous, and goods sent on approval. And here's a bird's eye view of the timelines, the last date on which the tax invoice has to be issued in case of supply of goods. If there's movement, then removal of goods. No movement, delivery or making available. Successive statement before or at the time of each such statement or each receipt of payment. No successive statement. As of now, we are not sure what the situation is. And the last, earlier of confirmation of supply or 6 months from the date of removal. These are the dates you need to keep in mind to check if you've complied the law to issue tax invoice. In the next video, we'll check out the timelines of tax invoice related to supply of services.